I'm Joe Oriema, and this is Face to Face on YesNetwork.com. Face to Face is an opinion-based show touching on topics around the world of sports. The opinions heard here are not necessarily the views of the Yes Network. With me, as always, is Glenn Giangrandi. And Glenn, what do you think of Barry Bonds' pursuit of 756, and do you think Hank Aaron should attend this game?
Well, I mean,
or those games.
Well, I mean, the man has compiled the numbers, regardless of the questions that are surrounding him. I mean, he's chasing it, and there's pretty much nothing that anyone who might want to do something about it could do about it. Now, Hank Aaron, you know what? It's his all-time record. He has every right. If he does not want to attend these games, he doesn't have to.
And I'll tell you why he doesn't have to. Because he shouldn't have to go there and field all of these questions about whether Barry Bonds was on steroids. Does he think this? Does he think that? Hank Aaron is the all-time home run king. He has the right to not go to these games. But what about the commissioner of baseball? Do you think the commissioner of baseball should attend these games?
Well, I mean, the commissioner, he's the man in charge of a cajillion-dollar enterprise. You know what? If he happens to be busy on these games, on the days of these games, you know what? Hey, it happens.
I can't agree with that because he is the commissioner of baseball. Even though, like you said before, there has been a lot of evidence pointing to the fact that Barry Bonds might have done steroids. To be honest with you, he is the commissioner of baseball. He needs to be there at these games. The commissioner needs to. This is the greatest record in all of sports, in my opinion. So
I think it's lost a little bit of luster because of all the controversy around enhancements and such.
All right, well, let's switch gears. Let's go to the NBA playoffs now. Biggest surprises, best series, best players. What's your thoughts on these playoffs so far?
Well, I think we're all shocked by what happened in the first round in the Western Conference. Golden State knocking off the Dallas Mavericks, 67 wins out the window. I think it's a real testament to the way Golden State played into the coaching of Don Nelson. Baron Davis, for my money, his performance in that series has made him, thus far, the best player in these postseasons.
See, now, I agree that the biggest surprise was the Warriors, beating up on the 67-win Mavericks. But in my opinion, the best player so far has been Carlos Boozer. This guy has been a monster. He outplayed Yao Ming in the first series, and even in the first game against the Warriors, the guy was a monster again. 17 points, 20 boards. I mean, he's asserting himself as the best player in these playoffs.
Well, I mean, if Golden State beating Dallas was surprise number 1A would have to be Utah in that Game 7, beating the Houston Rockets on the road. Yes. 97 times, and it was just the 19th time that a road team was able to win in Game 7. So
the one thing that's also surprising about these playoffs is how LeBron James is just carrying the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. They haven't lost a game yet.
Well, I mean, I think that's a little bit of a skewed stat. I know they swept the Washington Wizards in the first round, but that was a team that by the time the postseason came around, it was just dismantled. There was no Gilbert Arenas. There was no Caron Butler. I mean, Darius Sangaya was option number 2 on the team.
But they're beating a good Nets team right now that's really on a roll. They had momentum coming out of that Toronto series. They've beaten them twice at home. I'd like to see what happens in New Jersey, but it could be a quick series.
I think so, too, and I'm actually very surprised as well. I did not think, outside of Zdrunas Ilgauskas and Drew Gooden, that Cleveland had the chips around LeBron James to really make a deep run into this postseason. They're proving me wrong.
Now, the best series so far, I mean, even though we're still in it right now, I think has to be, and the most intriguing has to be the Suns and Spurs.
Absolutely.
Steve Nash, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Amari Stoudemire. The names go on, and you really have to think that the winner of this series should be the front runner to win the championship this year.
Absolutely. I mean, I think all year people have been saying the champion was going to come out of the West. People always say over the last few years, the Western Conference Finals, usually, they are the team that is usually favored. I know Miami won last year, but I think that you are 100% correct.
Well, who do you think is going to come out on top in this series?
I think it's going to be the Spurs.
You think it's going to be the Spurs?
Yes.
See, now, I think that this is the year that Steve Nash and the Suns, they move on. I think with Steve Nash's play, you saw in Game 1, without him, they lost the game.
True.
When he's healthy, they're a completely different team. I think this is their year. I think they're going to win it this year.
It's not a series unless Robert Horry gets a shot off within the last 5 seconds.
No, big shot, Bob. All right, let's move on to something a little more comical right now. Let's talk about Rickey Henderson and his possible comeback.
What's so comical about that?
The man is 48 years old. It's a little comical. I mean,
what's so funny? The man can still contribute.
He hasn't played a full season since 1998.
Julio Franco's still playing. Guys like Mike Morgan and Jesse Orozco, they played
Julio Franco has consistently played for 14, 15 years. He's in shape. Ricky Henderson tried to come back after the 2003 season.
Right.
He failed. He didn't make it past, the independent leagues and the minor leagues. How could this guy legitimately think that, people can sit back and say the Man of Steel is still the Man of Steel and he can come back?
First off, if I was a general manager, Ricky Henderson would certainly have a place on any one of my teams. And not as an everyday player. It's not like Ricky's asking to come back, play, 100-plus games or whatever. He could be a very serviceable pinch runner. You don't think that he's kept him... If he had not been keeping himself in shape, he's the kind of guy he would not want to put himself out there for embarrassment if he did not think he was capable of doing the job in some capacity for some team and he could run.
I disagree with you, and I do want to say one thing. I think he's just doing this so he can get voted into the Hall of Fame at the age of 95. Because at this point, his Hall of Fame eligibility is, he'll be eligible next year. But if he does somehow make it back to the majors and plays one game, he's got to wait another 5 years. What's going on with this guy?
I would be curious to see if he would, learn the names of of the pitchers that are on his team. Because we've heard the stories about him not knowing who guys on the A's were, and couldn't recognize John Olerud. Hey, guy with a helmet. I recognize him.
Yeah. So it is quite comical. You
gotta love Ricky.
I don't think Ricky can come back.
But do you like him? You gotta love him.
I like Ricky as a player. Ricky's class, but I don't see him coming.
Pretty
back.
Ricky.
All right. Well, that's it. That's going to do it for this edition of Face to Face. For wall-to-wall Yankees, Nets, and sports coverage, go to YesNetwork.com. For Glenn Giangrandi, I'm Joe Oriema saying we'll see you next time on Face to Face.